Maria Teresa, a Trump camp statement, of course, distanced itself from the racist joke, but this was hours after the joke, only after the scale of the backlash was apparent. Trump could have condemned that joke when he took the stage. He didn't. Neither did any of the other speakers that followed that comedian. What does all that tell you?
Well, Anna, I think for your audience to really understand, everything is incredibly orchestrated at these rallies. This is put in a teleprompter. This has to be, these speeches are vetted. These are not by off the cuff. The only person that speaks off the cuff in those rallies is literally Trump. So everybody knew going in what this comedian was going to say. You just need to look at his social media posts. He goes after Asians. He goes after women. He goes after basically anybody who is not white. And so this was not a surprise. I think what surprised them was that Latinos, we speak English and Spanish, that we are paying attention and that there is a backlash. And I have to say, the fact that Trump then came on stage and started speaking specifically about the enemy from within, he increasingly uses this language when he wants to talk about Latinos, framing us as undocumented, here with whether or not we can vote because we may be undocumented. This is all part of a very orchestrated plan to try to stack the election in his favor through his base and through the media by creating a question of whether or not the folks that are voting between now and elections actually are eligible. That is part of it because he wants to create some sort of friction. And we have to be very clear. There is no fraud at the polls. If anything, we want to make sure that every single American has access to it. And the fact that not more Republicans have come out to denounce this, that is concerning to me. But I do have to be very clear that what the comedian said last night was orchestrated. It wasn't an oops on his part. And then Trump coming up really re-emphasized it. And I do think the fact that she is now, she's getting endorsements from Bad Bunny, from J-Lo and Ricky Martin, it's less about them. It's more who follows them. These are low propensity information voters, disproportionately young voters. These are folks that in the last couple of weeks has shown that they were a little bit soft about coming out and turning out. The fact that they are amplifying these messages within these groups, that can't be taken for granted, because not only is there a Puerto Rican base in Pennsylvania, but there is a huge Puerto Rican base in Texas, in Ohio, in places that people don't recognize that will help flip this election if the word gets out.
Well, not to mention those last couple of places you mentioned have important Senate races as well.
Exactly.
Basil, this same comedian not only made the comments about Puerto Rico, but made a racist watermelon remark about a black person who was at the rally. You had another speaker talk about VP Harris's, quote, pimp handlers. At one point, as Trump highlighted immigration, the crowd started to chant, send them back. It's not just that these moments happened on stage, but there was clearly an audience for it.
Well, I agree with everything Maria says. This is all orchestrated. This is not something that is just off the cuff. It's one of the most vulgar displays that I've seen in my adult life. And it's not just because Donald Trump says what he says. It's because there were so many people on stage that echoed the same comment and so many people in the audience that clapped along. And let me say this, because it has to be said. Look, Dr. Phil gets up there and talks about DEI. He doesn't have his platform without Oprah Winfrey. The fact that, they're making these comments and using this language is meant to dehumanize people. And they're doing that so that you could see them without empathy. And why is that important? That's what colonizers do. That's what imperialists do. So that by the time they come back with their targeted policies to these people, you don't feel for them. That loss of empathy that they're trying to instill in voters should be assailed by every Republican in this country. And the fact that they've been so silent for the most part on what he said tells you a lot about not just where the party is, but where this country is. So if you come back and say to me, well, we need to vote for Kamala Harris so the country doesn't go down this path, we are already down this path. This was done at Madison Square Garden, where there are black and brown people that play sports in that building and engage in activities in that building every day. And we're here talking about this man on this platform making the most vulgar comments that I've ever heard as a political person, as an adult. I mean, we're long past the moment where we have to make a decision just to get rid of him. It is embedded in who we are today.
And when you talk about the otherization, I can't help but think about the consequences we've already seen during the Trump administration with what happened in El Paso and that mass shooting at the Walmart. Let me just ask you, Susan, because we have heard from some Republicans, like Senator Rick Scott, who's up for re-election in Florida, come out and denounce these. But why politically go there at this late stage in the race to have this be a big focus of this rally at Madison Square Garden, all this racism?
That is who Trump is trying to appeal to, his core base voters and maybe low propensity voters who are racist and may only show up because they've heard these remarks and says, you know what, like, I'll go there. Now, the plus side, I'm going to give a silver lining because I just like to do that before Election Day, is groups like Maria Teresa's and the Democrats and the Harris team, they are able to take this to voters. I think it will have a reverse effect and turnout, which is now the game. It's 8 days out. It's about getting your voters to the polls. And so I think we're going to see this have a really negative effect potentially on Donald Trump because the Democrats will use it as a way of getting voter turnout. Again, when we're talking about everything coming down to the margins, 10,000 votes in this state or 20,000 in that state, it can make a difference.